When you hear the term climate change, several images come to mind. The news and other forms of media often discuss climate change, but they present different views and misrepresent the scientific consensus on the matter. Because of this misrepresentation, things can start to get confusing and downright overwhelming. So let's take a step back and look at the science. Global surface temperatures have been rising for the past century at an alarming rate. Thousands of scientific studies confirm this warming trend. If the scientific consensus on increasing global temperatures is so strong, where is the public confusion on the issue stemming from? It comes from statements like the one Maxim Lott made in his article for Fox News. He said 2 decades ago the UN came up with several models that all predicted that by 2015 the Earth would have warmed by at least a degree Fahrenheit. Yet in the last 2 decades there has instead been virtually no warming according to satellite temperature measurements. Let's examine this statement. First of all, the predictions Lott is referring to come from an IPCC report, not just from the UN. The IPCC is an international panel of thousands of climate scientists, and its report summarized thousands of scientific studies on climate change and its impacts. Also, the UN did not come up with climate models. They were generated by climate scientists, and the IPCC report summarized their results. The next problem with this statement is the claim that temperatures have not risen in the past 2 decades. According to the IPCC Summary for Policymakers, warming of the climate system is unequivocal, and each of the last 3 decades have been successively warmer at the Earth's surface than any preceding decade since 1850. Thousands of climate studies show that global temperatures have been increasing for over a century, and have increased in the past 2 decades as well. Lott's claim that there has been virtually no warming is simply false. Even the source Lott cites in his article disproves his claim. He references a blog post by physicist Carl Meyer that discusses the recent slowing in the rate of global warming. In his post, Meyer says, "Does this slowdown in the warming mean the idea of anthropogenic global warming is no longer valid?" The short answer is no. Meyer says that while the rate of warming has slowed recently, global temperatures are still rising. Lott's statement shows a fundamental misunderstanding of the definition of climate and how climate is measured. The World Meteorological Organization defines climate as the average weather determined over a long period of time. The shortest acceptable period to determine climate is 30 years. Because of this definition, you cannot draw conclusions about climate on short timescales, like a decade or 2. Climate models must use long-term trends. Therefore, they are not sensitive to short-term natural variabilities in global temperatures. The IPCC report says that global mean surface temperatures always vary year to year and decade to decade. It may seem like the smaller temperature anomalies in the past 2 decades mean that global warming is slowing down, but the apparent decrease in warming is due to these natural temperature fluctuations. The overall trend is still one of significant warming. Looking at temperatures at such a short time period and ignoring overall long-term trends is an example of cherry picking. Cherry picking is selectively choosing the most beneficial item from what is available. Lott wants to say that global warming is not happening, so he only presented short-term decreases in the rate of warming and failed to show the bigger picture of climate. When news outlets take part in cherry picking, it is easy to see how misinformation on climate change is spread, making everything much more confusing for the general public. It is important to make sure you are looking at the whole picture when it comes to climate change, because if you don't, you will miss out on the truth of the matter.
Science.